Welcome to the People Leaders Podcast, the audio resource for managers and business leaders creating high-performing teams. Join leadership and team development experts Jan and Michelle Turkelson each week as they explore both subjects from every angle. Through practical tips, valuable insights, and compelling interviews with leadership experts around the world, you'll learn how to bring out the best in your staff and how to give your best as a leader.
Jan, how are you?
Excellent.
Terrific. So why don't we have a look now at the third dimension of our high-performing team assessment, and that is accountability. This is a big issue for a lot of teams, a lot of team members, because one of the things that comes up all the time is this issue about, am I responsible or am I accountable? What are your thoughts on that, Jan?
Basically, is accountability is held by one person and responsibility is held by many. You know, like it might be your duty to give someone responsibility for a task or a process, and that means that the role of that person is to do the task, and it can be assigned to multiple people. But if you're accountable, it means the buck stops here. Right. And I think that's a really important thing for a team, because it just means that we can all support each other
and share responsibility for getting the work done.
However, the delivery of that particular report or that main contact with the stakeholder or the analytics on a certain business modelling process, one person should be accountable. All
right, thanks for clearing that up, Jan. So let's have a look at some of the elements that go into this dimension called accountability. And the first one is that roles and responsibility of the team members are clear and understood by all. So why is that important, that my roles and responsibilities are understood and are clear?
Well, this is what makes a high-performing team show.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Like everyone who is playing on the field or, you know, in that pool understands what you're actually doing. And so when you understand what it is that you're meant to be doing, then you know who you can rely on for certain things, what resources need to be shared, and it just makes sense.
You know what I find interesting sometimes is that you can be in a team with other team members and their colleagues in that same team cannot identify what that other person's roles and responsibilities are. Like they're very vague.
Yeah.
And so definitely that is worth spending some time with your team, doing a little bit of a checkpoint on saying, okay, so Sally, if you could just give us, 1 minute or 2 minutes on your, key role, your key responsibilities.
Yeah, main focus areas,
key responsibilities, KPIs, whatever phraseology you want to use.
Yeah.
This is how you know you're a high-performing team, when your colleague could do it on your behalf. So everybody in the team could do it on everybody else's behalf.
Yeah, that's
how you know.
Yeah, and there are some reasons, I suppose, why people keep them vague, because, if you keep them vague, it's broad enough so you can design the job or the role. To have a bit of stretch. And if it's too specific, it doesn't give that person an opportunity to grow. So sometimes it's not just about capturing it and writing it down. It is about having that conversation.
Yeah, it being understood.
So if you're in a team now, what roles and responsibilities do you have, and can you articulate for yourself? Can you articulate it for your people leader or one-up manager or for the person that's you're sitting next to?
Thanks for that. So let's have a look at the next one, Jan. What's the next one?
When team members meet or exceed their agreed targets, they are appropriately acknowledged.
So appropriately acknowledged by who?
Right, so it could be the people leader, it could be other members of the team, it also could be from, different stakeholders if you've got, good relationships with them. And when we talk about appropriately acknowledged, part of that is it going to be relevant for me? Because some people love the idea of just having that being affirmed and being acknowledged, sometimes openly with the team, but sometimes people don't want to. Like how many times have we coached people and they get embarrassed by that open acknowledgement?
I know, and it's not about a rah-rah. So I'm working with a manager at the moment, and at the end of each day, they have a checkout session. So they just stand around a table. There's only, I think, about 10 of them. Stand around the table. So they don't sit down because it's at the end of the day. They stand around the table and they talk about the things that they ticked off or achieved.
Accomplished, great.
Yeah, so that's appropriately acknowledged.
Yeah, that's great.
It's not, giving a yellow flag to someone or a bonus or whatever. That is an appropriate acknowledgement process.
And when we talk about agreed targets, it could be a target for the day, the week, your objectives.
Correct. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one, Jan, when we're having a look at accountability. What's the third item?
Team members understand the metrics by which their performance is assessed. Mm-hmm. And we talked a little bit about metrics on one of our other podcasts, and it is important to know what you are measuring because this is where your focus, attention and resources are going to go by.
So it's like, how am I being measured? That's it. That's all this is. How will you know what are the things you as a manager will know, or what are you looking for that will give you evidence that I'm doing my job?
So is it the amount of reports, the quality? Is it how many projects that you have completed?
How many tasks on that project?
How many calls?
Yeah. All of those things go into defining what the measures are that determines your performance.
And this is a conversation also between the people leader and the person actually doing the task.
Absolutely. And this is the sort of conversation you would have at the beginning of the performance year. You would have another touch point, midpoint, are we measuring the right things to determine my level of performance? Or the manager would be asking you that.
And with the rate of change now, what you were doing in your job, 6 months ago could totally be different. So it is really important to have those conversations around performance and, what you're going to be measured by.
Mm-hmm. So let's have a look at the next one, Jan. So we're going to have a look at now. So when team members don't meet their agreed targets, they are held to account.
Ooh.
So held to account doesn't mean getting their fingers on the fire and, or embarrassing them or, I don't know.
Sending a group email.
Yeah.
Which we've seen.
Yes. So being held to account, it is, again, it's about feedback. I'm giving you feedback about you not achieving this performance target or measure that we agreed that is part of your performance.
And what I would really, invite people leaders to be mindful of is to be curious in this conversation, because you might say, like you haven't agreed to these outcomes. Remember, we started this 6 months ago, etc., etc. But you don't know what the resourcing mix has been, perhaps, or stakeholder shifts, or technology.
And the other thing, Jan, is if you are having regular catch-ups, regular one-on-one catch-ups with this individual, which we think is one of those top 5 things that every manager should be building into their repertoire, this isn't going to be a big issue for you because you will be having conversations that will cover off these sorts of things.
Yeah. So what do you think is some of the reasons why people don't meet their targets?
Maybe because they're stretched, they've got other responsibilities or tasks, that task creep that have crept in. Ad hoc requests that either come from outside the team or other team members.
Yeah, and if that team member isn't telling the people leader that they're actually doing this because they have a particular high level stakeholder that they're managing, that obviously can impact.
So what I would say, so what advice I would give to a people leader here is have the regular catch-ups about the performance so that you don't have to have the difficult conversation.
Okay, so give us an example of how you would set that up. So you're a people leader and you want to actually start having these conversations. What would you do?
So if I wanted to start having conversations with a team member about their agreed targets and how they're going, it would be something like, Sally, we've been working the team for a while. I want us to be a high-performing team. One of the things is making sure that we are all achieving the performance targets that we're supposed to. Are you open to having a conversation with me next week? Give some thought to that. Then we have a conversation. So you don't just throw it all on them then and there.
Yeah.
And then we say, so what are the things that go into, let's have a look at your roles and responsibilities. Let's, define the targets. And then we'll start meeting once a week or once a fortnight, once a month, and having a conversation about where you're at. Are there things that I could be doing or supporting you to help you achieve those targets? Are there some roadblocks that I could help get rid of for you so that it will, improve or allow you to, achieve your performance?
And are you capturing the right information so you can demonstrate that you are performing? And what you're doing is you're giving that person the heads up so they can collect some information and data before you have the conversation.
But being held to account is all about not letting things, slip by and think, oh, actually it's not such a big deal, so we'll let it go.
So what do we call that?
Managing the drift. Yeah. That's right. So we've got the opposite is managing the lift. So when you see somebody's incremental improvement in their performance, give them that feedback too. All right, so let's have a look at the next one, Jan.
Is that the people leader supports team members by providing guidance and constructive feedback regularly on performance.
Okay. So regularly providing feedback in a constructive way. So a people leader can do that individually. They can do that collectively. The other thing that you could do is you can do that via reports. It doesn't always have to be verbal necessarily, and you can do that within the context of the team, where the team are giving each other, feedback on their performance.
Yeah,
under your guidance.
Yeah, and obviously it's going to be different, depending on what the context is. But with this guidance, being a people leader is an opportunity to share how you have overcome certain issues and how you have overcome being in a position where you've got more responsibility, you have to do more with less, you manage difficult stakeholders. So when you're providing feedback, give people stories and scenarios and your strategies of how you dealt with it, so they get to know what your style is, and you get to share your knowledge and expertise in a way that you normally perhaps wouldn't, and it's very, very impactful.
Yeah, and when we talk about constructive feedback, what is this word constructive? So often, because we are very technically competent, we can jump right into seeing what is wrong rather than perhaps what they did right. And constructive feedback looks at the person walking away from this feedback conversation feeling as though, one, they were heard, two, that they were given a specific enough feedback they could do something with, and a roadmap. A roadmap to go forward, and they feel supported.
Yeah, so
that's what constructive would look like.
We don't want someone to leave that conversation feeling diminished.
Terrific.
Yeah, we want to empower them.
Terrific.
And so if you were a people leader, Michelle, what would be some, final feedback that you would offer around this accountability dimension?
It's your catchphrase, clarity, clarity, clarity. If people know what they are accountable for, they agree that, yes, I am accountable for this, and that they feel that they have the support. So it's about having those regular conversations.
I like the idea of, having a bit of a team meeting and so where does the buck stop with you? Where does the buck stop with you? Like, it doesn't have to be the formal conversations. No. Sometimes it can be just a quick conversation with having one particular focus. So there's a manager that I'm coaching at the moment, and every second team meeting, what he does is he puts a TED talk on, buys some donuts, and they talk about some particular issue that they hear on TED Talk.
Fabulous.
And then on other ones there is a specific focus, so it could be on capacity, performance, feedback, those types of things. So see where that fits well with you as a people leader, and start building that into your repertoire. It takes practice, and sometimes it's going to take a bit of time before you build momentum, but within 6 months you are going to see such a shift in performance.
It might be an extra 10 or 15 minutes on the end of a team meeting that you're having, and I tell you what, if you're not having team meetings on a regular basis, start having them, because there is so much development opportunity to be had by just getting your group of people together.
Yeah. So remember, accountability, that's the buck stops here with one person. Responsibility can be shared. Accountability cannot. Good. Thanks, Shell.
Thanks, Jan.
You've been listening to the People Leaders Podcast with Michelle and Jan Turkelson. For show notes and other free resources, please visit us at peopleleaderspodcast.com. Do you know someone else who could benefit from cutting-edge leadership and management techniques? Please take a moment to share this and other episodes via your podcast app, email, or social media channels. Each share helps us fulfill our goals of reducing workplace stress and increasing job satisfaction for leaders, managers, and their teams worldwide. The People Leaders Podcast is brought to you by the Experts On Air Podcast Network.